All right, today's episode of the Diversifi Speaker Series, we have Kristopher Alford, a
Senior
senior
at
at
Fordham.
Fordham. He is currently at JP Morgan in the Tech IB group, which is amazing. I'm at JP as well, amazing firm. But most importantly, Kristopher is the co-founder of KnowTern, a nonprofit that helps diverse populations that are financially disadvantaged, give them the resources they need to succeed in virtual learning in the environment that we're facing right now. Kristopher, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me. This is awesome. Really excited.
Yeah. So why don't we talk a little bit about your undergraduate path and why you chose Fordham and how that kind of tailored your career path?
Yeah. So going back from LA, so from the West Coast, I went to high school in the Bay. So coming to the East Coast in general was a little bit different. But I originally started actually at Drexel University in Philadelphia.
Okay.
So I was a student athlete there, played basketball for a couple of years, but after an injury and such, wanted to focus more on finance and business, and so really wanted to be in New York. So my best friends actually went to St. John's, and so I see it was a place to be, a lot of opportunities. For Wall Street is sort of the mecca.
Right.
So that was sort of the impetus for that. But also the other thing is like my original background is actually in tech and startups, working for cool technology startups, like when TripAction became like a unicorn and such. And so through that, I sort of got exposed to business in general, and that's sort of why I wanted to go, JPM Tech and such. But for me, the biggest thing was figuring out what's the biggest launch pad for me. And I know for that, it was finance, specifically like investment banking, where you can just learn a ton on a short amount of time. And so I felt Fordham was a really strong place to go with that. And able to meet like some of my main mentors, main friends and such and resources came from Fordham. And so I really feel like that was, it's a great plan. I was able to go to Fordham, come out with the exact, opportunity base and result that I hoped for going in.
Yeah. And so you were also part of SEO. How did you figure out about this program, and how did it contribute to your career development?
Yeah, no, SEO is an amazing program, and I actually found out about it through my roommate. His name's Armand Nieves. Actually, he's at Morgan Stanley now. He's like super tapped in all like diversity and such. And he told me, he's like, hey, check out this SEO. At the time, I was like, oh, you mean like search engine optimization? I was like what are you talking about?
Yeah.
He's like, no. He's like, no, not at all what I'm talking about. So I saw it. I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. It kind of applied, but didn't really like go far into it. Got still at that point more into like startups, tech, looking at other opportunities. And then actually a recruiter from SEO reached out. I was like, hey, did you apply? Whatever, made sure I went through the whole thing. And so that's how I sort of got into the Edge program. So I was like, hey, be a strong candidate. And so I joined it from there. It's actually an amazing program. I think for me, especially having no prior interest, because with diversity, first recruitment, it starts so early.
Yeah, it does. It starts incredibly early.
Yeah, like it's insane. And so having sort of SEO able to guide you through it, Edge program's amazing for that. So then it's like, oh, okay, cool. I follow these steps, go through this track. I wanted to figure out, I want to do investment banking versus asset management and such. And actually last summer when I was going through the recruitment process and all that, I was overseas working in Australia. And so like different time zone, can't go to like coffee chats and all that stuff. But with SEO, at least, you get your coach, your mentor, helping you go to like virtual sessions,
right,
prepping you high reviews. I'm sure you experienced
right
the bait of my existence. But I mean, definitely that it's like it is super useful. It is like amazing experience for me, at least, definitely.
Yeah. And so SEO provides mentorship, but I know you mentioned you had like some mentors from Fordham, and I'd assume also some outside ones as well. How did you go about initiating those mentorship relationships? I think those are so important starting out.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I feel really lucky because I have two parents who are sort of in adjacent industries. My dad is actually at BlackRock, and so he's sort of in finance, but asset management side. And quickly learned I didn't want to do that. Also didn't want to like follow directly his footsteps in that. And then my stepmom's in consulting, but then now she's at PayPal, like in fintech. So at least talking to them, I was able to get sort of a readout, and their whole policy was, hey, we'll start telling you what to do, but you're doing it yourself. They're like, I was exactly like, hey, you're on a network. This is what you should be saying. But that's all I knew. We have people you can reach out to. We're not walking you through it. I can tell you a lot of kids, it gets sort of the handhold, whereas me, it was like, no, here's almost like almost like a professor almost, where it's like, here's your time. either you get the grade you get based on what you do. And so with that, they told me, network, reach out to people. And for that, the first thing I did was reach out to Fordham alum. I was able to connect to a couple of events we had at Fordham through a program I was in called Alpha, or the club I was in. And first one I met was this guy, Walter Burnett, who's at Goldman Sachs, who's a Fordham alum. Now I'm at the event, and I was like, yeah, I kind of want to do finance, IB or asset management. He's in leverage finance. He's like,
Right.
cool, I would help you out. Figure out what you want to do first. I can help you with asset management. Figure it out. With that, I was like, oh crap, I should figure this out. Was it I want to do IB? Came back to him, and he was like, cool, do this, that, and third. Met with me a ton of times. Super useful. I had another one, Neil Patel, who's also from the Bay Area as me. Also another Fordham alum, was at GS. Helped me out a ton as well. And so I think from that, the biggest thing for me was just finding people with similar backgrounds. And then the other big thing for me as well was actually my roommate and a couple of my other friends, Armani, the guy I mentioned before, who was like the consummate sort of diversity kid who like knew exactly what he wanted to do and was just on it from like since he came into college. So he gave me the whole playbook. And then my other friend Darius is the same thing. Like both of them knew how I want to do IB. They're like, Chris, this is what you need to do. Walk me through it. So I feel like I was really lucky to be surrounded by a lot of people who were super helpful and how walk me through it. I mean, of course you do the typical cold call and cold network with people, but I just feel lucky that I was sort of baked in from both Fordham and just my own background.
Right. And now you're paying it forward with KnowTern.
Yeah.
So let's talk about KnowTern. What is KnowTern?
Yeah. So KnowTern is actually sort of going backwards. I guess the brand sort of idea for it started my second year at Drexel, where I just sort of really wanted to figure out a way to help out kids, like us, university kids and such. That one was a little bit wider swath of just, mentorship, trying to figure out any way we can help out kids and try to figure out their careers and such. And over this past summer, as COVID started, I kind of had KnowTern on the back burner, thinking about other stuff. And I realized, I had, so the brand I've already started to create, I figured out, one of the big things happening now is we're all moving to remote learning. And not every kid has the same resources. One thing I saw, whether through SEO or it was also, I was the president of a diversity board at Fordham, where you connect with a lot of kids who are moving to, and they're asking, hey, now we're remote learning, I don't have a laptop, or my laptop doesn't have a webcam, or I share a laptop with 3 other people, like is there any resources you guys have for us? And with my school, they're like, oh, we're now kind of tight, cash strapped,
Right.
with no one putting tuition. Even SEO, they're like, hey, we can help you guys out so much, but if you have all these kids, and also these kids also are kids who are going to top flight, Fortune 50 companies, and even they need help. So now I sort of zoomed out saying, hey, I already have this brand KnowTern with sort of a mission I already had to help out diversity kids and help students throughout their careers. And now I sort of have this moment where there's probably thousands or hundreds of thousands of students, whether it's through K through 12, but also especially college, where they need these resources. This is something very practical that if they just have a laptop, they just have a Wi-Fi hotspot, that would help them tremendously. And so for me, that's where I sort of had KnowTern, is sort of modeling and molding that thesis of wanting to help out students so they can have the correct resources. And so with that, going through creating an organization to want to give students laptop and Wi-Fi hotspot kept sort of evolving, sort of almost like startups and nonprofit stuff. You got to keep pivoting. So start off with just one scholarship tier. They created another tier for it as well as a partial scholarship towards a refurbished laptop. We received donations. One from Tom O'Hearn from Mace Rich. He's like, hey, here's a bunch of laptops. We already usually donate stuff, but you're doing a great thing here. So I really appreciate that donation, which helped out. And then as well, which is extra money we had left over, we found the Scholly platform, which gives out kids scholarships, and you can apply for them, super cheap, about $40 for a year membership. I don't know if you heard it before. So with that, able to then give kids those scholarships, and now they can, apply for it, get $1,000, and then sort of has the same effect.
Wow. So you guys are doing like a full suite of support, not just, the laptops and everything, but all different types of options. How can somebody that's interested in getting involved with KnowTern, whether it is through donations, how can we support you guys?
Yeah, so the big thing for right now, we just closed out our first wave of our scholarship program, because I think for us it's like for the fall. And so sort of closed that out now. And so based on sort of workload and sort of seeing how much we have left over with cash and how much support we can get, we contemplating now a spring scholarship program as well with the same platform. And so with that, I'd probably be sending out sort of notification to see sort of the support, what the response is from the community there. Because the biggest thing is I want to be able to help as many people as possible, help them at one time. And after having the first experience where it was sort of building as we can go along, sorting out the next phase. And so for that, thinking about doing a shorter form spring scholarship, even if it's just a few $1,000 to hand out some laptops and such. And so, but if you go to KnowTern.com, we have the last page, like a donor site. You can send us a note. And so if we're able to get, some recognition there as well. Also, we have our Instagram and LinkedIn pages, both at KnowTern. See it behind me right there, the spelling of it. So if you want to go there, send us a note. I think the biggest thing now is sort of just saying, like, if you're able to get support, able to get a lot of people who still want to help out, and a lot of students actually still need help, then fully on board for another sort of spring scholarship series.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and we do love what you guys are doing, and we hope to be able to support you guys in whatever way. So one of the things that I think a lot of people would love to hear about is your experience at JP. Just to start, what is it that kind of stood out to you about JP Morgan and making that final decision to go there?
Yeah, I say with JP Morgan, the biggest thing for me is while I was coming into finance was wanting to go into a company. For one, I can really see myself growing there and building it out. And a lot of people I talk to, they're saying like, yeah, no, I'm at JP. I'm in this office. I want to go to this office. Or even my intern sponsor, she started off in a different group and said, I want to be in tech now. Then, you show like, oh yeah, I'm capable. I can do it. And they're more than willing to have you switch to that group. And so they're very flexible and want you to be as happy and as useful to the company as possible, because they know that, happy worker is a great worker is one of the big things. And so for me, it's being in a place where I know that I can actually grow and they want to see you go in different roles is sort of the biggest thing for me, as well as, committed to diversity and helping out, students from starting all the way in high school to have, their Diversifi Black Pathways Initiative, Fellowship Initiative, and seeing those things, saying like, hey, this is a company that's really dedicated. And of course, starting from the top with Jamie Dimon, amazing CEO, I was thinking like, hey, this is a company I really feel like I could be at, stay at for a long time, and not committed to just having a worker come in for 2 years and leave, like dedicated to having students come in and stay there for a long time.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's almost the same exact reasoning. I mean, it's these programs like ABP, like Launching Leaders, Winning Women's, that really stood out to me, and it showed me that they're probably one of the most progressive firms on the street. And they've been doing this for a while. Launching Leaders has been around for a while, so it's never been just kind of trying to take advantage of the timing. It's just because they know it's right and they know that it should be done. And then again, like, it starts at the top with Jamie Dimon. I say it myself all the time. It starts with Jamie Dimon, and even like us at this early stage, we know the same thing. We all kind of carry the same kind of culture and the same goals. So that's really, I do agree with that a lot. That's really what stood out to me when I was recruiting, and why I drove so hard for JP Morgan. So what was your experience like this summer? I know that it wasn't the most orthodox experience being remote, but exciting group being in tech. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I first want to start off with a huge shout out to my intern sponsors, Christian Nee, Michelle, Catherine. Like, they were just amazing. They put on it's a great program. Like I said, it was online, virtual. Just think you're going to be in the office. But with that, I mean, it was super engaging. I think one of the positives from actually being virtual is that we're able to have a lot more interaction with senior people. Because generally, like the first couple of meetings, we're talking to some, VPs, MDs, and they're talking about how usually most of the summer they'll be traveling. Like, it'll be hard, and you're constantly rescheduling stuff because you're in the office for a total of a week over the 10 weeks we're there. Whereas now they can drop in and we can have a lot of luncheons and teachings with all these different people. Where actually for the tech group, we're able to have 2 separate lunch meetings with the vice chairman, Noah Wintrob, of Global Tech, which is like, normally that's very hard to have happen across the both San Francisco and New York offices. So that was an amazing experience. And that, that was a lot of hard work from our team doing scheduling and such. But even away from that, the actual works side, which I was a little nervous about because I haven't worked in finance before. So especially with IB, it's kind of a black box. Everyone tells you like, oh yeah, you can do your own DCS or learn it together, but you really can't replicate that experience.
Right.
even with that, I think they did a great job actually having us on different deals, and especially with tech, I was able to see a wide range of industries within that. It wasn't just, you're only with the fintech people. It's like, oh no, here's meet different MDs, working across some interns from both coasts, meet a lot of different people. And so with that, I just learned a ton. I was able to take in a lot. And maybe those was only 5 weeks. I learned more in that 5 weeks that I probably learned in like a semester of school, especially when it comes to finance.
Yeah, I completely. So let's hope that this season is the last season that we're doing this virtually. But just in case that this gets a little more elongated, or for any of those that might be entering a fall or spring internship that's remote, what are some of the guidance and tips that you give them to make it the most efficient and successful internship possible?
Yeah, I think this was a question I asked a lot of the analyst associates right before I got super nervous. Like, oh, legit. And the biggest thing is communication.
Right.
I think almost any job in general will tell you like communicating, and you have all these different like business communications classes, and you're wondering like, does this really matter? Yeah, it's an email. But the biggest thing is that if you're not in an office, then I can't kind of just go over to your desk and make sure you're doing something. Be able to actually send emails and constantly send follow-ups to where even if you're just reading something, someone sends you an email saying, hey, I have this task done, tomorrow. And it's not just wait until you finish it the next day and say, oh, here's the task. In that 24 hours, they had no idea how far along you are. Do you even understand what you're doing? Understand what's going on? So even starting that, when they give you the task, it would be, okay, cool. When's this due? What's expected of me? Anything else I should know about it? Saying those standards, saying sort of that standard and just those initial expectations early, and then you can meet them. And then when you're halfway through, you say like, oh hey, I know you want me this in the morning. I'm closing off for the night, but I'm about 75% of the way done. Should be able to say it, on time. And then we're able to show that you're extremely proactive and you're on top of things, then that sort of takes the weight off their shoulders. I actually had one thing where I was working on like a deal and my associate was clogged up. And so with that, because I was able to be so proactive and constant updates, constantly ask for help and say, hey, do you need this or that? I finished this. Are we all clear here? And have a constant line of communication. He trusted me to say, hey, I'm gonna be offline for a few hours. Can you get this done for me? So I think just that level of communication is extremely positive, and you can't over communicate when it comes to being in a COVID environment because I can't see you. So I'd rather get spammed with text and know everything you're doing than hear from you once in the whole day.
Right. I completely agree. Yeah, it sounds like an amazing experience regardless, and it seems like you made the most of it. But yeah, I think that was one of the biggest things that coming into this internship that I did over the summer, I didn't really understand the importance of it. But as soon as it went over, I mean, we'd have daily stand-up calls, and I had his number at that point. My MDs like just text him all the time because it's true. I mean, you don't have that in-person interaction. It's the best you're gonna get. And when you have like these deadlines that are not, you need to be communicating what's going on, a lot more fluidly than like an email or whatnot. So I completely agree.
Definitely.
So I wanted to get a gauge more on a macro level for diversity, because it's always a progressing thing. There's always room for improvement. We talked a little bit about the positives with JP, with all these the programs that they have, the pipelines that they have. But what are some of the gaps or some of the improvements you'd like to see, in general, not JP, but just like in general to really continue to improve?
Yeah. I say the first thing, especially with diversity, is exposure. So I think like nonprofits like Diversifi is amazing with these podcast series and such, where students from as young as in high school can learn about different career paths, actually hear from kids who look like them, not just, like if you're a black kid from Compton, listen to Ray Dalio won't hit the same. It's so far away and it's so it's not saying, oh, I can do that.
Right.
So I think that's one of the big things. And then I think like with exposure, and so that's why I think programs sort of as JP Morgan does are really important, because then these students are able to see like, hey, one of the stereotypes, especially with like maybe kids who are from immigrants, is lawyer or doctor, and so you start to see now a lot of people of of color are not lawyers or doctors, because that's
Right.
increasing. And so obviously there is a level of competency. Like, yes, we can do that. And I see when I was at Drexel, all my best friends were engineers. These are kids who are taking classes like complex vector analysis or dynamic systems, where it's a page of math for one problem. And so you're telling me, a kid who can do that can't run a DCF, or can't figure out corporate finance? Like,
Right.
things like that is just sort of that thinking of, oh, this kid can't learn finance. It's like, no, the kid just had never any experience in it. And so, yes, it's going to be a ramp up. But if you're able to expose kids to it earlier and give these kids opportunities to learn about or have the option as early as high school or early college, I think we'll see that pipeline grow. I think right now it's the biggest thing. As we're now trying to have diversity, and a lot of these companies are trying to see now that there are a lot of students now, even who are grinding and hustling to get into these positions. Now, if you not just have the kids who are grinding and hustling and love finance, now I get also those other kids who didn't know about it but are super bright, and they're like, oh, I can go to JP and do this job. Like, this is fun, and now that's what they do instead of becoming an engineer. Now you'll see just a tidal wave of more and more kids and people of color are coming into this industry. But you need that early exposure, because if students had no idea about this career path to their juniors or seniors, yes, it's going to feel like, oh, these kids aren't as good, but
Right.
they spent the last few months trying to be a lawyer.
Right.
And I really don't think that's like a lower level of intelligence than anything to do with finance.
100%. I think, I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, like, I did not know I wanted to do finance when I was in high school. I had no idea what an EBITDA was in my senior year. Like, I think I completely agree with that point. Just giving them the exposure of financial careers and a career in finance, how interesting and well set up you can have yourself just straight out of undergrad. Just having them understand, and then that way they can start finding out how to develop themselves to get into the right position when they start recruiting their sophomore year, their junior year. They already have experiences tailored to whatever it is that they're doing, and then they'll make it farther. They'll make it farther than they ever thought.
Yeah, exactly. No,
exactly.
That's huge. I mean, a lot of these students, I know a lot of kids where once it starts to click, then they can easily dominate it, because they're like, oh yeah, I was just doing pages of calculus, and now
Exactly. It's
I
nothing
have to run a
crazy.
DCF.
Yeah, it's nothing. We're not doing rocket science. It's very straightforward. It's just a matter of teaching them and helping them understand the nuances, and just giving them the playbook of understanding how to really succeed in corporate America.
Exactly. Yeah, it's huge.
So for a student that is right now, let's say in their freshman year, and they want to start a career in finance, what is some of the guidance that you give them, starting out with nothing, no network, not like no resources, to find themselves at a firm like JP Morgan?
Yeah. I would say sort of the first big thing is figure out if this is really what you want to do. I know I was just talking about kids who do want to do finance and such, but I think the trap a lot of students fall into is, oh, my friends are doing this, so I should do this too.
Mm-hmm.
And if you fall into that, you'll get singled, especially if you're trying to go for a top flight, investment banking, asset management, private equity, venture capital. If you're kind of just doing it because I should, you'll get singled out really fast.
Right.
And so I think that's the biggest thing. And not saying that, all finance isn't for everyone and you shouldn't do it. It's like, no, figure out if you want to do it, research it. And then once you figure out, oh, I do have this passion for it, I do have a reason for it. As everyone says, sort of like the why I be question, it's one of the hardest questions because it does take time. But once you have that passion, that makes everything easier, because people can then see, oh, this is a kid where if I invest in them, especially when it comes to mentors and your network, they're able to see if I invest in you, like this will come back to me as well. Like nobody wants to invest in someone who then will try it out for a week and go off,
right.
Especially finance. But once you get past that hump, you figure out, yes, I want to do finance. Then the next big thing is, research it. Make sure you're asking intelligent questions and you show you have this passion for it. You didn't just say, I want to do finance, and then now you reach out to people and ask them the basic questions like, oh, what's investment banking? What's the definition of it? Like, you don't want to reach out to an MD and ask them that. Like, oh, well, what's your job title? What's your day-to-day? Like, well, at this point, you can find that online.
Right.
Ask, interesting questions and such. And then when you get to that point of reaching out to people, the biggest thing, like I found as well, obviously from my friends and just searching up stuff, is reach out to people with similar backgrounds. Because one of the biggest things when it comes to developing a mentor, developing a network is warm introductions will always beat a cold introduction. But you can make a cold introduction warm by being able to express a similar interest or background. Like for me, when students reach out, I had a couple kids who reached out and said, "Oh, I was also had startup or tech background, but I want to go into finance." For me, I'm like, "Cool, I can really help you. Like this, I had the same experience. Let's talk. What was your experience in tech? Why you want to switch?" You have that same thing. Whereas the kid reached out to me and he's like, "Yeah, I want to do IB since I was in middle school." I'm gonna tell the kid like, "I just want so much I can help you with." And I'm still gonna be able to help him out, but it's just not the same.
Right.
Right. It's the same as kid who also likes basketball. We can talk about that, and then that's how you build that relationship. Because I think a lot of kids, they reach out to this network and it's almost just a game of attrition of just, "Oh, I have my spreadsheet,
Yeah.
reach out to this person and disconnect." And if I
Yeah.
no, I think the biggest thing is aim for 1 to 3 close mentors who you
Yes.
develop a great rapport, deep relationship to where I once now who just check up on me, because we developed that relationship and they'll introduce you to other people. Once you get that one person and you're close with them, they'll connect with anyone near them. They'll say, "Oh, I mean, you're cool. I know you're driven. I know you're a good person. You're interesting to talk to. Here's 5 other people." And that's the easiest way, because then you get that one introduction, turns into 5 other warm introductions. And also you find yourself in the room, at JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, or any other place. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just making sure you have that passion for it, for whatever you're going for, whether it's finance, tech, engineering, anything. Make sure you have that passion for it, and then try and reach out, connect with people, and develop strong, deep relationships. At that point, one deep relationship is worth its weight in gold compared to 100, "Hi, hope you're doing well,"
Yeah.
just random people.
Yeah. Of course. I think that's really important too, because I think a lot of people, when they start networking, and people tell them, you got to network, they're just like, they're reaching out to like 50 people just to check a boxes. They're like, "Oh, like I hit up 50 people today, I'll do 50 next week." But I mean, the quality is just going to go down the more you do it. Like you said, finding those people and making like a real intimate connection where you could text them, you could really like ask them for advice on a lot of other like menial things that you wouldn't be able to at other people. Those are the ones that will really take you far and will really stick their neck out later on, when it's needed. So for sure, I definitely agree. Kristopher, it's been amazing to have you on and hear a lot of your insight. Is there any last words you want to leave with the viewers watching?
Last thing to say is just for those out, still going through recruitment. I know COVID's been hard. It's definitely a lot of struggle, but just keep working. I think definitely there's been a lot going on, especially if you're a person of color with a lot of things. You have riots going on. The election. There's a lot of things to cloud your mind, but there is going to be a brighter side. And I think as long as you stay focused on what you want to do and focus on what you're passionate, you'll be successful. And for me, going through recruitment, there's a lot of dark days. There's a lot of rejections. There's a lot of, just I'm not going to make it. All your friends said, this person got, 10 internship offers, and you kind of want to quit. But you got to run your own race. And if you stay dedicated to it and really go after something you're driven for, you'll be successful, at the end of the day, every single time. I've seen it happen with myself and lots of my friends and other people. And once you get there, make sure you get back.
100%. I think, yeah. Let's emphasize that point. Give back. It's so important to, not only pave your own way, but pave the way of the next generation, the next class.
Yeah, 100%.
Chris, it's been great to have you on.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Of course.